If you are a man watching this, listen carefully, because what you're about to hear explains something most men never understand, yet women respond to instinctively. A man doesn't become more attractive by talking more. He doesn't become magnetic by explaining himself. He becomes powerful the moment he learns how to go silent without disappearing. And that silence, it does something to people, especially women. Before we go any further, if this is the first time you're watching a video from this channel, you've done yourself a favor. This is the Mind Forge, a place built for men who want to sharpen their presence, discipline their emotions, and understand the deeper rules of attraction, respect, and power. Subscribe to the channel now, because everything here is designed to help you level up as a man. Now, let's get into it. When a man goes silent, something shifts in the dynamic. Not the weak silence of avoidance, not the childish silence of punishment, but the controlled silence of a man who no longer feels the need to over-explain, over-justify, or over-perform for approval. That kind of silence is rare, and rarity creates value. Most men talk too much. They explain their intentions. They justify their actions. They chase clarity. They want to be understood at all costs. And in doing so, they unknowingly drain their own presence. Women don't respond to explanations the way men think they do. They respond to energy, certainty, and emotional self-control. Silence, when used correctly, signals all three at once. When you stop talking unnecessarily, people begin to observe you instead. They start filling the gaps themselves. They wonder, they project, they become curious. And curiosity is the doorway to attraction. A man who goes silent sends an unspoken message. I'm grounded. I'm not shaken. I don't need validation to stand where I stand. That message is louder than words. Think about it. When someone suddenly pulls back their attention, your mind starts working. You replay conversations. You question your last interaction. You wonder what changed. That internal questioning creates emotional investment. Silence forces reflection. And here's where most men get it wrong. They think silence is manipulation. It's not. Silence is self-containment. A man who can sit with his thoughts without needing immediate reassurance becomes emotionally unpredictable in a good way. He is no longer easy to read, easy to control, or easy to dismiss. Women feel this shift instantly. They may not be able to articulate it, but they feel the loss of easy access. And when access becomes limited, value increases. If you're still watching at this point, it means this is already hitting somewhere real. Hit the like button now, not for the algorithm, but because this message deserves to be spread to men who need to hear it. Now let's go deeper. Silence works because it removes reactivity. When a man reacts emotionally, he hands over power. When he explains himself under pressure, he signals insecurity. When he overcommunicates, he reveals his need to be accepted. But when he goes quiet, not cold, not rude, just composed, he flips the dynamic. He becomes the one being watched instead of the one seeking attention. Women are wired to test emotional stability, not consciously, but instinctively. Silence removes the usual emotional handles they use to gauge you. And when those handles disappear, uncertainty appears. And uncertainty keeps attention locked. This is why men who are always available, always responsive, always explaining, slowly lose attraction. They become predictable. And predictability kills tension. Silence restores tension. It creates space. It creates contrast. It creates gravity. If you've made it this far, comment silence below. It lets me know you're not just watching, you're understanding. This is only the foundation. Something powerful happens the moment a man goes silent. Not emotionally absent, not immature, but intentional silence. The world starts reacting to him instead of him reacting to the world. Most men don't realize this because they were conditioned to believe that attraction is built through effort, reassurance, constant communication, and availability. They think if they stop talking, stop explaining, stop checking in, they'll lose interest, lose connection, lose relevance. But the opposite happens. Silence creates contrast, and contrast creates curiosity. When a man who used to explain everything suddenly becomes selective with his words, people feel it immediately. There's a subtle disturbance, a shift in emotional gravity. Women especially are sensitive to this change because communication patterns are emotional signals. When those signals change, the mind starts searching for meaning. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. People value what they have to figure out, not what is handed to them. When you go silent, you remove predictability. You remove emotional certainty. And uncertainty is one of the strongest triggers of attraction when it's paired with confidence and stability. Silence forces imagination to take over. A woman starts asking questions internally instead of you answering them externally. What is he thinking? Why isn't he reacting? Did I do something? What changed? And the moment she starts asking herself questions about you, you're already inside her mind. This isn't manipulation. This is psychology. The human brain hates unresolved patterns. When a man goes silent without becoming cold, aggressive, or needy, he becomes an unresolved pattern. The mind naturally tries to close the loop. That's why silence works. But here's where most men mess it up. They confuse silence with withdrawal. They confuse quiet confidence with emotional punishment. They confuse mystery with emotional unavailability. Real silence is calm. It's grounded. It's non-reactive. You're not silent because you're angry. You're silent because you're centered. And that difference is everything. A man who goes silent from insecurity repels. A man who goes silent from self-possession attracts. Women can feel the difference immediately. When you stop over-explaining, you stop chasing understanding. You stop seeking validation. You stop negotiating your worth. And the moment you stop negotiating your worth, people start respecting it. Respect always precedes attraction. Always. Silence also signals abundance. A man who doesn't rush to speak signals that his life is full. His mind is occupied. His time is valuable. He's not waiting around to be chosen, he's choosing. That flips the dynamic completely. Now, instead of you wondering where you stand, she starts wondering where she stands. And this creates emotional imbalance, not chaos, but polarity. Attraction needs polarity. If you're always explaining yourself, always clarifying, always reassuring, you flatten polarity. You become emotionally available, but energetically weak. Silence restores polarity. And here's the part most men don't realize. When you go silent, people project their own insecurities onto you. If she's insecure, she'll assume she did something wrong. If she's confident, she'll become curious. If she's emotionally invested, she'll lean in harder. Silence doesn't create emotions, it reveals them. That's why silence is such a powerful filter. It shows you who respects you, who values you, and who only liked you when you were explaining yourself into exhaustion. Now, if you're still watching up to this point, it means you're not here for surface level dating advice. You're here because you want to understand power dynamics, presence, and self-mastery. If that's you, hit the like button right now. It tells the algorithm to push this message to men who need it but don't know it yet. Let's go even deeper. Silence is also a boundary. When you stop explaining, you're saying, I don't owe everyone access to my thoughts. I don't owe everyone emotional labor. I don't need to justify my choices to feel valid. And boundaries are attractive because they signal self-respect. A man with boundaries is a man with standards. A man with standards is a man who chooses, not one who begs. Women are drawn to men who decide, not men who ask permission to exist. This is why men who talk less but move with certainty dominate rooms without trying. Their silence isn't empty, it's loaded. Loaded with intent, loaded with direction, loaded with self-trust. And when a man trusts himself, others follow. When a man goes silent, something ancient wakes up in the human psyche. Silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty creates focus. The moment you stop narrating yourself, people begin to watch you more closely. Every move matters more. Every word carries weight. Every absence is felt. Here's what most men don't understand. Attraction doesn't grow through constant explanation. It grows through contrast. Noise only matters when silence exists. Availability only feels valuable when absence is possible. When you go quiet, you create contrast, and contrast sharpens perception. This is where the power really begins. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop managing emotions that aren't yours. You stop carrying the burden of making people comfortable with your choices. That relief alone changes your posture, your tone, your pace. You move slower, you speak less, you listen more, and people feel that shift immediately. Women are especially sensitive to this change, not because they're calculating, but because emotional dynamics are felt before they're understood. When a man goes silent, she subconsciously asks, did I misjudge him? Did I lose access? Is he still invested? Or did he move on without me noticing? Silence triggers introspection. It forces people to look inward instead of outward. When you're always explaining, you give others a place to dump their confusion. When you go silent, they're left alone with it. And that's uncomfortable but revealing. Now listen carefully. This is not about punishment. This is not about manipulation. This is not about acting cold or cruel. It's about self-containment. A man who doesn't rush to explain himself signals something rare: inner stability. He doesn't need immediate validation. He doesn't need agreement to proceed. He trusts his own judgment enough to let outcomes speak for him. That's why silence feels powerful, because it implies confidence without announcement. Think about it. The men who command the most respect in any room are rarely the loudest. They don't overshare. They don't justify. They don't chase understanding. They allow people to catch up. When you go silent, you also stop leaking energy. You stop reacting emotionally to every misunderstanding. You stop proving yourself to people who haven't earned access to your inner world. That conservation of energy becomes visible as calm, grounded presence. And calm presence is magnetic. At this stage, something else happens, roles reverse. Instead of you explaining your intentions, people begin explaining theirs to you. Instead of you clarifying your position, others seek reassurance. Instead of you chasing connection, connection starts moving toward you. Because silence creates space, and space invites pursuit. If you're still here, understand this clearly. Silence only works when it's backed by purpose. If your life has no direction, silence feels empty. But when your silence is filled with action, discipline, growth, progress, it becomes intimidating in the best way. People don't fear silence. They fear what silence might mean. It might mean you've outgrown them. It might mean you're no longer dependent. It might mean you see something they don't. And that ambiguity is what makes you attractive. A man who goes silent without bitterness, without explanation, without drama, that man controls the frame. He doesn't argue inside someone else's narrative. He creates his own and lets others decide whether to align with it. This is the shift from reactive living to intentional living. You don't announce boundaries. You live them. You don't explain standards. You enforce them through behavior. You don't demand attention. You become worth paying attention to. And that's why silence works not as a tactic, but as a consequence of self-respect. When a man goes silent, something unsettling happens in the emotional environment around him. The noise disappears. The predictability vanishes. The emotional rhythm people were used to is suddenly gone. And in that vacuum, curiosity is born. Silence forces people to think. Most men don't realize this, but attraction doesn't grow in constant reassurance. It grows in uncertainty, contrast, and emotional space. When you're always available, always explaining, always responding instantly, you remove the very tension that creates desire. You become background noise instead of presence. When you go silent, you don't disappear, you condense. Your absence becomes noticeable. Your words, when they return, carry weight. Your actions are observed instead of ignored. This is where women begin to feel the shift. Not because you're playing games, but because you're no longer emotionally leaking energy. You're no longer over-investing. You're no longer trying to manage how you're perceived. That restraint communicates something powerful: self-sufficiency. And self-sufficiency is attractive because it signals options. Silence tells the world you are occupied with something that matters more than validation. It implies direction. It implies internal stability. It implies you are not driven by reaction, but by purpose. Here's the uncomfortable truth most men avoid. Women don't chase men who chase understanding. They become intrigued by men who don't need to be understood by everyone. When you stop talking unnecessarily, people start listening. When you stop explaining, people start interpreting. And interpretation is where attraction grows, because imagination fills the gaps. At this stage, women begin to replay interactions. They reread messages, they analyze tone, they wonder what changed, and more importantly, why. That internal dialogue pulls emotional focus toward you without you saying a single word. That's power. But silence alone isn't enough. Silence without substance is emptiness. Silence must be paired with grounded behavior, calm movement, consistent action, quiet confidence. A man who goes silent but becomes erratic loses attraction. A man who goes silent and remains centered multiplies it. This is where your habits matter, your routine, your discipline, your mission. When silence is backed by a life that's moving forward, it becomes magnetic. When it's backed by insecurity, it collapses. If you're still watching at this point, you're not here for entertainment. You're here to upgrade. Drop focus in the comments if this is hitting home. When a man goes silent, something uncomfortable happens in the emotional world of those around him. The usual signals disappear. No reassurance, no emotional over-explaining, no chasing, no constant presence. And that silence forces people to confront something they've been avoiding their own position in his life. Most men talk too much because they're trying to secure certainty. They want clarity, they want reassurance, they want to know where they stand. But attraction doesn't grow in certainty, it grows in tension. Silence creates tension, and tension creates curiosity. When you go silent, you stop feeding emotional dependence. You stop managing other people's feelings for them. You stop trying to be understood at all costs. And the moment you do that, your value recalibrates. Here's why. Silence removes predictability. Predictability kills attraction. When someone can predict your next message, your next explanation, your next emotional response, your presence becomes background noise. But silence interrupts patterns. It forces the other person to think, to wonder, to replay past interactions, to question their own behavior. That's when attraction deepens, because now, instead of you chasing clarity, they are chasing meaning. Women, especially, are highly sensitive to emotional shifts. When a man suddenly stops over-communicating, stops explaining himself, stops justifying his actions, it signals emotional independence. It suggests that his life is full, structured, and self-directed, not reactive. And that is powerful. Silence also reveals confidence without performance. Confidence doesn't need to announce itself. A man who goes quiet after being misunderstood, disrespected, or taken for granted sends a strong message without saying a word. I know who I am. I don't need to argue for it. That message lands harder than any explanation ever could. This is where many men fail. They think silence is passive. It's not. Silence is strategic withdrawal. It's choosing not to invest emotional energy where it's not reciprocated or respected. And when you withdraw correctly, people feel the absence immediately. They notice the missing attention. They notice the emotional space. They notice the lack of availability. And that absence creates contrast. Contrast makes presence valuable. When you were always there, your presence felt normal. When you step back, it becomes noticeable. When it becomes noticeable, it becomes desired. But there's an important rule here. Silence only works when it's backed by substance. If your silence is empty, no direction, no self-respect, no life outside the interaction, it turns into avoidance. But when your silence is backed by purpose, discipline, and movement, it becomes magnetic. You're not silent because you're hurt. You're silent because you're focused. That distinction changes everything. At this stage, people begin to project onto you. They fill the silence with assumptions, often positive ones. They assume you're busy. They assume you've leveled up. They assume you've moved on. And those assumptions increase your perceived value. This is the psychology most men never learn. Attraction is not built by convincing someone of your worth. It's built by behaving like your worth is non-negotiable. And silence is one of the clearest ways to demonstrate that. If you're still watching up to this point, it means this message is landing. Comment silent power if you're starting to understand how restraint creates respect. When a man goes silent, something unsettling happens in the emotional environment around him. The noise drops, the certainty disappears, the predictability vanishes, and the human mind, especially one accustomed to attention, reassurance, and emotional availability, begins to fill the silence with imagination. Silence forces interpretation, and interpretation is where attraction is born. Most men talk too much because they're afraid of being misunderstood. They over-explain to control perception. But the irony is this: the more you explain, the less mystery remains. And the less mystery remains, the less emotional tension exists. Without tension, there is no attraction, only familiarity. When you go silent, you take back control of the narrative. Not by arguing, not by convincing, not by defending, but by withholding access. This doesn't mean ignoring people. It means you stop reacting emotionally on demand. You stop responding immediately. You stop clarifying things that don't actually require clarification. You stop correcting assumptions that don't deserve your energy. And when you do this, people start leaning forward. Women especially feel this shift because attraction is not built on logic. It's built on emotional uncertainty paired with perceived strength. Silence signals self-possession. It suggests you are grounded enough not to chase understanding. It implies that you are moving forward regardless of whether someone fully grasps your internal world. That alone separates you from the majority of men. Now, here's the part most people get wrong. Silence is not passive. It's active restraint. It's not about disappearing completely. It's about reducing emotional availability while increasing personal momentum. You're not sitting still. You're advancing, just not broadcasting every step. And this is what makes silence attractive instead of cold. A man who goes silent but continues building, improving, moving forward sends a very specific message. I don't need validation to progress. That message is powerful because now, instead of you explaining yourself, others start explaining you to themselves. They wonder, why isn't he reacting? Why isn't he chasing? Why does he seem unaffected? Why does it feel like he's pulling away but not losing direction? And that internal questioning creates emotional investment. The silence becomes loud. It forces introspection on the other side. And if you're still watching at this point, it means you're beginning to understand something most men never do. Attraction increases when you stop trying to manage how you are perceived and start managing how you live. If this is hitting home, pause for a second, hit the like button, not because you're being told to, but because this shift deserves reinforcement. When you engage with content that sharpens you, you anchor the lesson deeper. Now let's go even further. Silence changes power dynamics because it removes emotional leverage. When you explain yourself, you place your emotional state in someone else's hands. You're asking them to agree, to approve, to validate. Silence removes that dependency. And when dependency disappears, respect rises. This is why men who suddenly go quiet often notice a change in how women respond. Messages become longer. Questions become more frequent. Curiosity replaces certainty. Effort increases. Not because silence is a trick, but because it exposes imbalance. The person who cares less about being understood controls the emotional tempo. That's not cruelty, that's clarity. Now, here's the crucial discipline. You must pair silence with consistency. If you go silent emotionally but become erratic in action, you lose credibility. If you go silent but become withdrawn and stagnant, you lose attraction. Silence only works when your life continues to move forward with intention. You still show up, you still act decisively, you still maintain your standards. You just stop narrating your every move. And that's where the shift becomes irreversible. People start adapting to you instead of the other way around. They adjust their behavior, they test less, they respect more, they feel the weight of your absence even when you're present, because now your attention has become selective, and selective attention is rare. There's a moment that happens when a man goes silent that most people never talk about. It's the moment where reality shifts, not loudly, not dramatically, quietly. The people around him feel it before they understand it. The man hasn't disappeared. He hasn't become cold. He hasn't withdrawn emotionally. What changed is simpler and more dangerous. He stopped feeding unnecessary energy into the world. And the world does not know how to handle that. Silence from a man who used to explain himself creates psychological imbalance. Humans are wired to predict behavior. When you remove predictability, attention sharpens, curiosity awakens, respect begins to form. Women feel this immediately. Not because silence is a trick, but because silence signals self-containment. A man who doesn't rush to speak is a man who is not ruled by reaction. A man who is not ruled by reaction feels grounded, and grounded men feel safe, dominant, and rare. This is where attraction changes flavor. Most men talk to be understood. Powerful men move and allow understanding to arrive later. When you go silent, people start doing something they never did before they start watching you. They read your tone, your posture, your timing, your decisions. And when they realize you're not performing for approval, something clicks. He doesn't need me to agree. He doesn't need to be validated. He's fine either way. That emotional independence is intoxicating. And here's the part that separates real silence from fake detachment. Your silence must be backed by direction. You're not quiet because you're lost. You're quiet because you're focused. When a woman senses that your attention is not easily pulled, that it belongs to your mission, your discipline, your structure, she doesn't feel ignored. She feels challenged. Because attention is currency. And when you don't spend it freely, it gains value. This is where most men panic and ruin everything. They feel the shift. They sense the tension building. And instead of holding it, they rush to relieve it. They over-explain. They clarify. They soften. They chase comfort. And the moment they do, the attraction collapses. Silence creates gravity. Explanation removes it. Now, listen carefully. Going silent does not mean becoming emotionally unavailable. It means becoming selectively available. You speak when it matters. You respond when it aligns. You invest when it's earned. This forces people, especially women, to rise to your level of communication instead of pulling you down into constant reassurance. And when that happens, attraction stops being something you try to generate. It becomes something you trigger. If you're still watching at this point, it means you're not here for tricks. You're here for transformation. Drop a comment with the word "still" if you understand that silence is not absence, it's presence under control. There's a moment that changes everything. It's quiet, no announcement, no warning. It's the moment a man realizes that explaining himself has never actually earned him respect. It only postponed rejection. When a man goes silent, something ancient awakens in the people around him. Not because silence is a trick, but because silence removes comfort. And comfort is where attraction goes to die. Most men don't lose attraction because they're bad men. They lose it because they narrate their entire existence. They explain why they're busy, why they're tired, why they reacted the way they did, why they didn't call, why they feel the way they feel. Each explanation feels harmless, responsible, mature, but psychologically, it does something dangerous. It places you beneath the emotional authority of the listener. Silence reverses that hierarchy. When you stop explaining, you force others to interpret you instead of manage you. And interpretation creates curiosity. Curiosity creates attention. Attention creates attraction. Here's the uncomfortable truth most men aren't ready to hear. Women don't lose interest when a man goes silent. They lose interest when a man becomes predictable. Silence breaks predictability. When you go silent, you're no longer available for emotional auditing. No one can easily categorize you. No one can fully read you. And the human brain hates unresolved patterns. It seeks closure. That's why silence pulls people toward you instead of pushing them away. This isn't about ignoring. It's about withholding unnecessary access. A man who goes silent isn't passive. He's selective. He's choosing where his energy goes instead of dispersing it everywhere. And that choice alone separates him from the crowd. Now, let's talk about what actually happens inside a woman's mind when a man goes silent. At first, there's confusion, then curiosity, then self-reflection. She starts replaying interactions. She wonders if she said something wrong. She questions her assumptions. She fills the silence with you, not your words, your presence. And this is critical. You didn't do anything to create this effect. You simply stopped over-explaining. That's why this works. Men who talk too much remove mystery. Men who explain too much remove tension. Men who justify too much remove authority. Silence restores all three. As we reach the culmination of this journey, it's time to understand the true power of silence. This is more than just a tactic. It's a reflection of character, restraint, and self-mastery. A man who knows when to speak and when to remain silent embodies authority without arrogance, confidence without desperation. His presence alone commands attention because it's rare, deliberate, and magnetic. Women and people in general are drawn not to chaos but to stability. By choosing silence over explanation, a man signals that he values himself, his time, and his emotions. Every word is measured, every action intentional. He doesn't chase approval, he earns respect. And this respect, once earned, transforms attraction from fleeting interest into lasting connection. Remember, silence is not emptiness, it is filled with purpose, patience, and power. When wielded wisely, it shapes perception, ignites curiosity, and demands pursuit. The man who masters this doesn't just attract attention, he commands loyalty, admiration, and desire. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to The Mind Forge for more insights that sharpen the mind and elevate your presence. Click the link below to watch the continuation of this video series and unlock the secrets to true attraction.